Welcome to the Marketpath Video Release Notes, where we cover the high-level feature additions and other updates related to Marketpath CMS. My name is Matt Zintz, and I'm the founder and CEO of Marketpath.
And I'm Levi Carter, the Senior Product Developer for Marketpath CMS.
All right, this video is about Marketpath CMS version 1.2.1. So we're going to jump in. There's a lot of tangible benefits that we wanted to get in this release. It's pretty exciting, we think, and there's a lot of nice little updates that everybody should see some benefit from. So the first one is SEO features and improvements. Go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah, for this one, we just wanted to make it a little bit more obvious what information on a page was SEO related. We previously called some of these fields, put them under an advanced section, but that was a little bit misleading in some cases. And we also wanted to clean it up, to tidy it up a little bit, put things in a more natural order and in a more natural place. So the first thing we did was just a little bit of a reorganization, and then we wanted to give you a little bit more of a feel for what those fields will look like most likely when they're published as a page, and so how they'll look like from search engines. So we added a search results preview area, and you can actually see in this demo here, we've got a desktop preview, and you can toggle that to see what it would look like on a mobile device by clicking on the search results preview toggle. And that's not a guarantee. Every search engine will display things differently. It depends on a lot of factors, such as what search engine you're looking at, when you're looking at it, where you're looking at it from, and if your template does things properly. So it's not a guarantee.
We're not Google.
We're not Google. No. And Google changes their minds about how things look all the time. So we're not going to guarantee that this is actually how it's going to look, but most of the time this will be pretty close. So you can see underneath that, under browser title and meta description, we also added character count and a little indicator so that you can see approximately when your browser title is going to be too short or too long to be meaningful on Google, when your meta description is adequate or inadequate, and that's just supposed to give you, as a marketer, a general indication of whether or not you've gone too little or too far in terms of how you're doing your SEO information. Once again, not a rule. It doesn't actually do any real validation. It's just supposed to be there to help you when you're doing SEO information for your pages.
Yeah, well, hopefully you like that. That's a nice little feature that we've added. And it helps with the flow of what if you're not that familiar with SEO, you can see that some of the things that you should be taking care of. A lot of people still tend to forget meta description, and that is a very important piece up here in the whole search results panel. Otherwise, Google or Bing or whoever gets to decide for you what to put there based on the content on the page. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not. Okay, the next feature is default parent paths. We're going to cancel this, and we're going to jump over here. This is one of my favorite features. So in the blog here, if I click on this, you can see that I have now a default root path. That means that any blog post that I add is going to automatically have blog pre-pinned to the front of the URL, the front of the path. And I can also click this enforce button right here, and this will mean that all blog posts underneath this are required to have blog as the beginning. And I can change this to whatever I want. But we're going to close that out, and we're going to jump over here, and I'm going to create a new blog post, and I'm going to show you as I type the name, all these different fields start to fill in. But check down here where it says URL. Check how that fills in. Oh, it's wrong now because I don't actually have a full URL in there. But so now I typed in the name of my new blog post, and as you can see, it populated this down here with blog, how to get better at SEO. And if I had required set on this, it would actually validate it and throw an error if this did not match what was set in the blog post. Some of the other features here is if I have I can set the same thing on authors. So let's go to
folders.
Folders. Did I say authors?
You said authors.
Well, yeah, I meant folders. So I can set a default root path on this called clients, and I can enforce it. Go ahead and publish that. And then now if I go to create a new article, let's do this. My new article. Really need to think of better names, but that's what we have here. So notice that this is just using what the name of the title is. But as soon as I select a folder, I'm going to select clients. I'm going to save it. Whoop. You can see now that clients was prepended to the URL or the path. So that is a nice feature. And I have an error. Oh, because I don't have anything saved. Oh yeah, I got to select template. That's what it is. Yeah, I know. I've done this a few times. And I'll just select generic inside. So now we should be good. So, but notice that was prepended. So this works for anything with a folder. This works for blog posts. This works for data stores, and it works for calendars. So you can set parent paths on all of those. Now, calendars, blog posts, data store, those all the parent path set in those will take precedent or priority, I suppose, over if there is a folder selected for those items. So the actual parent will take the precedent. So that's a nice, very cool feature that I've been wanting for a very long time, because it's really hard to type out a few extra letters for each URL, but sometimes you forget. And if you want to keep your paths consistent, then that's a good way to do it. I'm going to jump into the next one. When you have a page that you haven't published yet, we improved the sharing, made it a little bit easier. This isn't a huge deal, but it's kind of a nice, convenient add. So as we come in here, notice that some things took place. Well, this didn't have a password, so it automatically created a password so you could share. And what it also did was create this content here that you can just click this little copy to clipboard button, and then I can actually copy that and paste it in an email and say, hey, check out my post before I publish it. So this is for previewing content before it's published. So this is a nice way. It includes all the text, and of course you can, once you paste that in your email, you can change it. Timezone updates. Ready for this one?
Oh, this is a big one, actually.
Two parts, too. Do you want to talk about the first part and the second part?
The two parts kind of are the management interface, and that's a little bit easier to explain in some ways. When you look at what we're looking at right now, everything on the site has like a created date, and a lot of things have modified dates and things like that. In the back end, everything's stored in a sort of standard format, but in the front end, you want to display a lot of these dates in the user's time zone or in the site time zone and keep things a little bit more organized. So we added a site setting, and we'll start with that one. So the site setting, you can, under the properties, you can select your site time zone. And basically when you select this time zone, everything under the site by default is going to be displayed using that time zone. And the time zones, as you can see, are basically typically the continent and then the city name. In this case, we could select Indianapolis perhaps as our time zone on most of our sites. It'll start off in this release, everything will be UTC, and that's for backwards compatibility issues. But moving forward, you can select a new time zone, and that'll change how all of the time zones are displayed on your site. So if we want
that's everything: activity, published dates, created, modified dates. Yep. All of it gets changed unless you have it set specifically on a calendar.
So the one exception, would be calendars. So when you create a calendar, you select a default time zone for that calendar, and the date and time on the calendar entries created from that utilize that time zone, which gives you the ability to customize calendar entries specifically by which time zone they're in. And that was a feature that we built in sort of from the beginning, and now is even more meaningful. But you'll see if you change your time zone, all of the timestamps now, the date created, date modified, your logs and all that stuff, they include that short time zone identifier. So here it's EDT. As you change your time zone, you'll see that, so it should be obvious. The other place we added time zones to was the user record. So you can edit your user properties in your profile.
Go up here, click on my profile,
and you can select a time zone for your user. This is used for a number of different data points, but basically it's going to be when you create a site or something like that, when you're working with something that's not specifically site related, more management, it'll typically use your user time zone instead of the site time zone. And one nice thing about that is since we know what your user time zone is and we know what the site time zone is, we can let you know if you go to edit a site that doesn't use the same time zone that you've identified as your time zone.
Notice at the bottom here, yeah. It says your profile lists your time zone as US Hawaii, but this site utilizes UTC. So that means that's just giving you a heads up that as you're working on the site, the time zone in the site will be UTC.
So that's, in a sense, that's the easy part. That's displaying things in the management interface. On the live side, we've added a number of new features to help template developers to manipulate and display time zones. So all of the timestamps now on sites by default will use the site's time zone. So if you change your default time zone, say if we made our default time zone Hawaii, then all of our times on live sites would be displayed using the Hawaii time zone by default.
So we were talking about the live site time zone and how that is dependent on the site, and how you can change that as a developer to utilize a different time zone in a different area of your page. For example, a landing page that you are posting for West Coast only and you're based in the East Coast or something along those lines. You can actually set the time zone for those items if you wanted to match that. All right. Last couple of features. We have two left. So one of them is the billing details. This is more of an admin feature and one that I really like because we see this a lot. And it used to just go into the billing wizard, so you'd have to walk through the wizard to see all the details. But now we have a simple billing screen that just gives you all the different information that you want. And this is a little bit different because it's built to our agency account that we have, but yours would essentially look similar to this if you have billing rights on the site. So this is a nice little feature, and you can jump in and it'll take you right to the section to change any of these. So for example, upgrading your plan so you can take advantage of automation. So one of the next new features that we have, or the last thing that we wanted to talk about, was one of our most exciting features. They're all pretty exciting to us, but this one was a somewhat minimal effort because of the way that our system is built. I mean, there's a lot to it. That's sort of not giving it enough credit, I suppose. But we were able to work this in, and it produces tremendous results for the speed at which a page is rendered and delivered to your end visitor browsers. So I'm going to let Levi talk a little bit more about this, but I'm going to start it with a question, I suppose, is how does this work just from a real high level, and does every single site get this benefit?
So from a really high level, the way it works is when a user requests a page, our system builds it and keeps track of certain information about whether or not the page is cacheable. And I'll explain more about that in a minute. But if the page is cacheable, if it fits the requirements for the fast cache to be utilized, it stores a copy of the entire rendered page so that the next time the same page is requested, we're able to serve the cached copy of it. We don't have to do any of the assembling. We don't have to do any of those expensive database queries. We don't have to do a lot of text processing or other. It's just here it is.
One call.
There you go. Which cuts down our page load time dramatically. So one of the things that I like about this feature is that you, as a template developer, as an agency, as a company, as somebody who uses Marketpath CMS, you don't have to do anything to add it to your site. It's there, it's running, it's working already, and we're already seeing tremendous gains and improvements from it across the board. Now, that doesn't mean that your site is able to use it on all of its pages. There's certain pieces of a page that prevent us from being able to cache it.
So basically, most pages on your site probably utilized fast cache, but there are a couple that may not.
Yeah, typically, yeah. So personalization would be a big one. Your search page probably doesn't use it.
And if you have any questions about that, then you can send a support ticket in or just send us a message and we can help you answer that question to determine whether or not your site is, but it probably is. So thanks for your time. That is what we have for release version 1.2.1. I hope you enjoy the features, and take a little bit of time to send us your feedback. We love to hear from you, and we always want to know what you think is good, what's bad, what could use improved, and any new features that you think would be helpful as you navigate the waters of content marketing and digital marketing and all the other things that go along with that. So thank you very much.
Have a great day.